Hi, welcome back to another Young at Art at Home project. My name is Sylvie from Steamboat Creates, and today we are going to make a fabric bowl. So this is a sample that I have made before, and if you listen, it's really hard. It's a hard bowl that can hold things inside of it, and it is made all out of fabric and glue. If you've been to one of our Young at Art School Days Off, you may have done this with me before. We made some little cups that dry faster, and we used the form of a small Dixie cup. Today, we're gonna make a full bowl, so you can put treasures in it, or you could put some art supplies, or whatever you can think of inside of it. So we're gonna use a bowl as the frame for it. So what you'll need to make this fabric bowl is some kind of form. So it could be a bowl, it could be a cup, a jar, whatever it is you have around, some kind of plastic container. You'll also need some plastic wrap, some kind of clear plastic wrap, and some fabric. If you have some old t-shirts around, you can cut those up. Any kind of fabric that's pretty thin will work. You'll also need some glue, and you'll need a container for that glue, as well as a little bit of water. And you'll see how we'll use that in a moment here. Now let's get started. We are going to set out something that you can let this bowl, once it's got gluey fabric on, sit for a little while. So if you have a baking sheet with some parchment paper or some baking sheet and cover it in the plastic wrap, that will work really well. So we are going to take our bowl and flip it over. The bowl will not end up getting gluey because we're gonna cover it in plastic wrap. So you want enough plastic wrap to cover the entire bowl. And then we're gonna set it down like so. This is the part where you're gonna want a little bit of water added to some glue. So I just have this little Dixie cup that I'm gonna put a little bit of water into, not much, and then also a little bit of glue. I'm gonna take a little less than that. And a little bit of glue. So it's about an even 1-to-1. And we're gonna stir it up. And for this, if you have a foam brush, that can be a nice way to put it on. I'm ready to get my fingers really messy, which in this project, your fingers are gonna get really gluey. So be ready for that. So we're gonna add a little bit of water to this glue and then just let it cover this plastic wrap. So I'm gonna use a little piece of my fabric here that I'll be able to use again, just to make sure it is all over this plastic wrap. And this will encourage it to stay gluey on the inside, but also not stick to that plastic wrap. Great. Now we are gonna start dipping fabric into the glue to cover this form. Now we want some kind of container that we can fill with some glue. So I'm gonna put a couple big globs of glue in here. You can always add more, so probably start with a little. And for this, you're gonna wanna roll your sleeves up, and we're gonna want to cut different pieces of fabric to size. And we're gonna end up layering this bowl with about 2 to 3 layers of fabric, because the fabric that is on the inside is gonna go down first. So whatever I lay down first, when I take this off the mold, it's gonna end up on the inside. So that'll be what pattern is on the inside. And then the layers that I put on last are gonna end up being on the bottom and the outside of the bowl. So to make sure that it's sturdy enough, we want 2 to 3 layers. I've started with some big pieces of fabric like this, and you can cut them into all sorts of shapes. So you could cut them into triangles. I've cut a lot of triangles. You can cut them into squares. You can cut them into pretty big strips. And you can make circles. You could make stars, that you have a star on the inside of your bowl, whatever kind of pattern you'd like. And then once you've got the patterns of the fabric cut out, you're gonna start dipping them in the glue. You don't need too much glue. The more glue you have, the longer it's gonna take to dry. So I'm just gonna dip it in like this, and then what I'm gonna do is actually fold it up so that I'm saturating the whole thing with glue. And then I'm gonna set it down. And remember, whatever I put down on the bowl first is what's gonna be in the bottom. So I'm gonna put the design side out. If one side has a design on it, you want that facing down. So I'm gonna set that down, and now I'm gonna keep going with different pieces of fabric, dipping them in the glue, making sure they're totally covered, and then setting it down on the bowl like so. Making sure it's not too sopping wet, but each piece of fabric is totally covered in the glue. All right, so now I have done 3 layers, 2 to 3 layers of cloth all over the top of this bowl. And I wanna make sure that as I look at it, there's no spots that I can see that clear plastic or the bowl that we're using as a form. And then you'll know you have at least a couple layers there. And at this point, it's gonna sit to dry. And once probably about 5 hours or so, you'll be able to tell that the outside is dry. You'll be able to feel that the glue has started to dry and harden. And then once the whole bowl feels hard enough on the outside, you're gonna actually pick it up, turn it over, so it'll sit like this, and you'll peel the plastic from the inside out. And then you can let the inside of the bowl dry. It'll need another few hours once you take that plastic off for it to dry there. Once that dries, you will have a fabric bowl, and you'll be able to use this for all sorts of things around your home. If you want to, the edges of mine are still rough, so you can always take a pair of scissors and trim them. I want a little rim on mine, so I'm gonna leave some of it hanging over the edge, although if you want a clean rim, you could just cut it right up to the edge there. Or when you're placing the fabric down, you can be careful to place it along an edge. Otherwise, you can always feel free to have a piece of fabric coming out off of the edges, and you could even make something like rays of a sun if you wanted them like this. Thank you for joining us. Please check out the rest of our projects and classes on steamboatcreates.org/classes page, or subscribe to our YouTube channel and enjoy all of these Young at Art at Home projects. Bye.